Hello and welcome to the Cardboard Dungeon. My name is Pat, and in this video, the first of our series on the Star Wars Legion core box contents, we are going to look at the Imperial Commander included in Star Wars Legion, Darth Vader. A fitting starting point for a battlefield commander for the Empire. Vader is suitably imposing in his miniature form. He is both wielding his lightsaber as well as performing a force choke on some poor fool in his line of sight. And in case you were wondering how the Star Wars Legion miniatures stack up to Imperial Assault, the other Star Wars miniatures ground-based game from Fantasy Flight, here is the Imperial Assault Vader on the right next to the Legion Vader. And you can see, although Imperial Assault minis are good quality, the Legion miniatures are objectively better. I think that there's just more detail on them. They're slightly bigger and better looking overall. Much more fine detail in a lot of the armor pieces and other areas of the miniature. Okay, let's jump right in here. Looking at Darth Vader's unit card, we can see that he is a commander unit. He costs 200 points, which makes Vader the most expensive unit in the game currently. Yes, he's even more expensive before upgrades than an AT-ST, which I think is as it should be, really, right? He is Darth Vader. Now, on his upgrade bar, we can see Vader can take 3 Force upgrades. And then at the bottom, he is wielding Vader's lightsaber, his only weapon, the only weapon he really needs. It rolls 6 red dice, melee range only, of course, and it has Impact 3 as well as Pierce 3, which means that it can convert 3 hits into critical hits when attacking armored enemies, and it will ignore 3 blocks on the defense dice rolled against it. So a very powerful weapon. Now above that we can see Vader has a speed of 1, the slowest in the game. And then he also has no native way to convert surges on either offense or defense. He has no courage value, which doesn't mean that Vader is a coward. It means that he just doesn't ever get suppression tokens, can't be suppressed, and he will not panic. And above that he has 8 health. He rolls the red die on defense, which is the best defense die. And as I said, he is a commander. He does count as a trooper as well. And his unit is just Lord Vader himself. Now in the middle of the card we can see he's got a bunch of abilities here, starting with Deflect, which says that if you spend the dodge token while defending, you gain the surge conversion into blocks. So he does have a way to get that as long as he can spend the dodge token. And if he is defending against a ranged attack, then the attacker suffers 1 wound for each surge rolled. So that is the lightsaber deflect. If he comes under heavy fire from an enemy trooper unit, for example, he might kill some of them while blocking, which is very cool. Next, Vader is immune to pierce, which makes sense because he has a lightsaber, so he's going to be blocking lightsaber attacks, which it seems like the lightsabers are going to be the main weapons that have a lot of pierce, although I'm sure we'll see some others showing up later in the game, but he'll be immune to all of them. Master of the Force 1 means that in the end phase, he can ready one of his exhausted Force upgrade cards. A very cool and useful ability. And then finally, Vader is, of course, relentless, which means that after he performs a move action, he can perform a free attack action, which is great for Vader because he is so slow moving. So he might need to use both of his actions to move, and then after that, he can still make an attack if he got into melee range of anything. Now let's take a look at the Force upgrade cards included in the core box that Vader can make use of. Starting with Force Choke, which is a dark side only Force upgrade, costing 5 points. It is a free action, which means that during his activation he can use it, and it does require that the card be exhausted, and then it will later need to be readied either by taking a recover action or via Vader's Master of the Force ability. And it lets you choose an enemy trooper at range 1 that is not a commander, and that trooper suffers 1 wound. Now, if it's any of the troopers currently in the game, that 1 wound is sufficient to outright kill it. And later in the game, as more expansions come out, we might see troopers that have more than 1 health, that this ability will just be able to put a damage on without having the opportunity for a defense roll or anything like that. Next, we have Force Push, 10 points. It is also a free action. Choose an enemy trooper unit at range 1. Perform a speed 1 move with that unit, even if it is engaged. And this does require it be exhausted, so you'll have to ready it later on. But this is very useful, especially since Vader is slow. You can actually use Force Push to pull an enemy trooper unit closer to him, maybe to get him into melee range and swing away with his lightsaber. Next, we have Force Reflexes, costing 15 points, another free action, which will be exhausted when used. And it simply says gain 1 dodge token. So dodge tokens are super important for the Jedi and Sith in this game because that does power that deflect ability. So this will let Vader move twice as both of his actions, for example, and then still take a dodge token so that he can use deflect against incoming enemy fire and stay alive a little longer and possibly do some damage as he's marching toward his targets. Next up is Battle Meditation, costing 10 points. And it says when you issue orders, one of those orders can be issued to any friendly unit on the battlefield. So even outside of Vader's command range, which is useful if a trooper unit gets outside of command range. The vehicles do have the long range comlink upgrade option to let them get around being outside of command range as well. This seems like not the greatest upgrade as far as these force upgrades go, but it could come in handy, especially if you're playing on a large battlefield and you have a lot of troops and only 1 commander, which if you have Vader as your commander, that's likely to be your only commander since he is a full quarter of your 800-point army build. Okay, finally we have Sabre Throw, which costs 10 points. Now this is a regular action, so this will be one of your 2 actions that you'll use during your activation. And it says, choose one of your melee weapons, which for Vader is just his lightsaber. Perform a ranged attack with that weapon against an enemy unit at range 1 or 2, using half of that weapon's dice rounded up. This is treated as an attack action. So you're only allowed to make 1 attack action with a unit during its activation. So this would be that attack. It will roll 3 red dice, but it does give Vader a very powerful ranged attack. Because as I said, he is very slow, and this will let him do some damage before he engages in melee. Alright, so that's all the upgrades that you get in the core box that Darth Vader can make use of. He is, as you would expect, very powerful, a very dangerous opponent, lots of neat abilities. He does have a couple drawbacks though, and from what I've played so far, they are significant. His speed of 1 is very slow. That means Vader has tough decisions to make because moving at speed 1 doesn't get you very far at all. And the game only plays over 6 rounds, so he's going to spend a lot of the game walking forward. And enemy units don't have too difficult a time getting away from him. So then on top of that, when he does make attacks and when he defends, he doesn't convert any surges. Now he does roll 6 red dice. It is the best single attack in the game currently. To roll 6 red dice, the most powerful attack dice, but not being able to convert surges into hits on attack is a little bit weak, especially since Luke, who rolls black dice instead of red, can convert surges into critical hits, making Luke's lightsaber almost as good as Vader's because of that surge conversion. And then Vader doesn't have the conversion on defense either, although if you give him a dodge token, which it's pretty easy for him to get with Force Reflexes, he does get that, at least for 1 attack made against him in a round. However, even with those drawbacks, Vader is, as he should be, a very, very powerful fighter on the battlefield. If he gets into melee range with a unit of rebel troopers, it is very likely that he will kill all of them in one attack. And against Luke, the other commander in the core set, Vader has, I think, an above even chance of coming out in a one-on-one fight. So if you want to take Vader down, you really need to concentrate a lot of fire on him. And that can be dangerous with your rebel troopers, because if he has a dodge token, one or two of them is very likely going to get killed when he defends against their attack. All right, so that's Darth Vader. Very, very powerful, very good. Very happy with how they treated him in Star Wars Legion. As always, thanks for watching the Cardboard Dungeon, and I'll see you next time.